Alright, hello. Last time I did team building advice video, I got pretty good response out of it. So I thought I'd go for another one. Thought I'd give it a try. The last one was kind of basic, I believe. Um, it was just kind of saying, hey, if you don't have bulky things on your team, then you're just gonna die to stuff. So it was kind of not really obvious, but I don't know. I found it was something that was kind of important and that some people kind of overlooked when just making a team. So it was kind of a basic concept, but I kind of wanted to start with basic concepts. We got pretty good response, I think. No one seemed to dislike it, so I thought I'd make a second one. Yes, the strats. Oh no, air balloon cloister. Oh my god, these are the real threats.
Oh shit!
What did you do?
I
Yes!
quit.
Yes! I told you! But so this video is going to deal with something that I think a lot of people kind of have a bit of a misconception about, and a lot of people don't really understand. Is to do kind of with momentum and offensive pressure. And a lot of people don't really understand what that means very well, or a lot of people don't really think it's important, and a lot of people kind of play on the safe side of things because they don't think that it would benefit them um, to have to maintain momentum. But I think just the biggest thing is people don't really understand what it means. So I thought I'd make a little video kind of explaining, at the very least, what my understanding of momentum is. So I'll just start off by kind of defining what I'm gonna use, the definition I'm gonna use for momentum. And basically, if you have momentum, you're forcing your opponent to play reactively instead of proactively. And what I mean by that is they have to deal with your threats immediately instead of planning for future threats or preparing to pretty much beat your team. Um, so for example, if you keep applying pressure, if you keep momentum very high on your team, your opponent's not going to have time to set up anything. They're not going to have time to heal anything. They're not going to have a time to do anything other than kind of just clutch to staying alive. They won't have a time to set up against you. And I think an example of the example that I'm going to give right here is, let's say your opponent has a Metagross, and I don't know, let's say they have a Scizor in. I guess Scizor is a bad example. Let's say they have. I guess how about Breloom? Breloom's a good example. Say they have your opponent has a Breloom in, and you have a Venusaur in, right? And this is your Venusaur moveset. Your opponent has only Spore because they forgot to put any other moves. Well, obviously not, but let's just say your opponent obviously can't touch your Venusaur, and you can easily get rid of the Breloom, right? So it's pretty obvious that they're not going to stay in, right? And I'm going over kind of obvious examples. Now, let's say your opponent has a Metagross in the back, and it's an Agility Metagross. And let's say when building your team, you didn't really prepare for Metagross, or your dedicated counter for Metagross is dead or really injured. But let's just say, for the sake of it, if Metagross gets an Agility under its belt, it completely sweeps your team. So you have Venusaur and they have Breloom out. If you let Metagross come in on a Sludge Bomb, on a Giga Drain, it's going to have a pretty free opportunity to set up an Agility. I get you're carrying Earthquake, but Earthquake is, honestly, it's not going to do too much to Metagross because of that fantastic defense stat. You could even just be carrying like Leech Seed or something. So if you let Metagross come in, it's going to have a free turn to set up. So if you can keep up the pressure by doubling into Gengar, predicting his switch into Venusaur. And if you have like Choice Specs Gengar and no, not Sludge. You've got Choice Specs Gengar, they have Agility Metagross. You predict the switch. Now it's Metagross versus Gengar. They can't Agility, or else you're going to kill them. So they have to play reactively. They have to react immediately to Gengar, or they're going to die, of course. They can't set up an Agility. They can't set up a Stealth Rock. They can't. They can't play they can't play for the long game. They have to play. Oh shit! There's a Gengar in front of me. I have to deal with it. All right. So it's basically just keeping your opponent kind of on their toes, never giving them an opportunity to do anything that would help them in the long run. They have to play immediately, and it's very good kind of tactic to use. Again, this is kind of another obvious thing that I'm going over. It's kind of like I'm just saying, don't let people set up, but it's kind of the theory behind that, right? So this is a kind of a really good example for it, and kind of the idea of applying pressure and keeping momentum is it's really important for a lot of things because it's it can help it prevents your opponent from setting up, but if you correctly double switch, like I told you with Gengar there, you can rack up a lot of extra Stealth Rock or Hazard damage. You can prevent someone from healing. So let's say they have a Chansey and they're pretty low on health. You've taken them like half the game to get them under half health, right? And you know that you have a special attacker, and you know Chansey's going to come in. If you can double predicting the Chansey's going to take 12% from Stealth Rocks, and whatever you doubled into, it's going to be scared out of, right? So it's going to have to switch. If it was under half, if it was at like 40%, it's going to be at about like 30% now. Whatever it switches into, it's going to be at about 20%. Plus, it's going to take any hit that it took from switching in, so it'll be at about 10%. So anything that can deal more than 10% to Chansey is just going to kill it. And that's huge. Like, anyone who's played against a friggin' Chansey knows how annoying these things are to kill and how crucial it is to not let it heal. Alternatively, the same thing goes for something like Heal Bell. If you burn your opponent's Scizor, and you can get wrecked by your opponent's Scizor, you can't let your opponent get the Aromatherapy or Heal Bell off. So you need to be able to correctly predict when they bring their Cleric in so that you can scare it out immediately. Also, preventing hazards, preventing hazard setters or preventing hazard removers. So if you know your opponent's, if you predict the Fortress coming in and you switch immediately into a Fire type, that's going to scare the Fortress out. They're not going to spin. That's going to rack up Rocks damage on the Fortress and on whatever has to switch in. So it's kind of just like a tact. It's not really like a tactic, but like it's kind of to explain the idea of momentum and the idea of trying to keep momentum. I don't think I'm explaining it very good, but I don't know. This is the best it's the best I can think of, and it's just kind of basic concepts to kind of try to wrap your minds around. In the sense of double switching is important, and momentum is important. The easiest, if anyone wants to, practice their prediction skills, or if anyone wants to work around with practicing with momentum, the easiest strategy to use is just a Volt Switch U-turn team, because they're really easy to use and they're very high reward with fairly low risk for making an incorrect prediction. Like, if you go for a U-turn with a Scizor, predicting a switch, and they don't switch, it's still going to hurt them. You might give them like a free chance. You might give them like a semi-free chance to do something you didn't want them to do, like heal or something, but honestly, it's very high reward and fairly low risk if you mispredict and go for U-turn. But it really gives you an opportunity to practice your prediction skills. It gives you an opportunity to say, oh, I bet he's going to switch, go for U-turn, as opposed to having Gengar and saying, oh, I bet he's going to switch, so you double switch, and then they kill you on coming in, right? So it's a very interesting thing to try to do. So I kind of said keeping momentum means you're forcing your opponent to play around you as opposed to play for the long run, right? I know I gave a few examples before, but I kind of want to give some examples on kind of how to gain momentum, how to keep momentum, that kind of stuff. So obviously, double switching, like I'd said before, is very good for keeping momentum. You force switches, take extra stealth rock damage, prevent them from healing or doing anything. Another really good thing is getting a free switch. So if they have a Conkeldurr and you're fairly sure they're going to go for a Drain Punch, and you switch into Gengar, you pretty much got a free switch, and that's pretty huge because it means, like, if you take no damage and you can switch into something that can kill your opponent, we're assuming it's not Assault Vest, obviously, but if you switch in Gengar and he does not knock off, you just gain a huge edge on the game because they have to play around that. Assuming you can kill, of course, with Gengar, they can't do anything with knockoff. Of course, the downside is they can predict that and go for knockoff. So, again, a lot of these things that I'm talking about are very high risk, but if they work out, you gain a huge edge and gain a lot of momentum in the game. Another really big thing, obviously, is forcing switches. So if you have a fire type and they have a fortress, and you pretty much force them out, they're playing around you. They have to work around what you're doing. They can't set up. Gains a lot of momentum because it gives you an opportunity to prevent them from gaining momentum. So if they switch from Fortress into something and you predict that, they don't get a free switch, or you can double, or you can U-turn or something. But forcing switches are always nice because whenever your opponent is forced to switch, it basically means that you have kind of the ball in your court, as it were. And depending how you play around them switching, you can maintain your momentum, or you can obviously lose it by going for Bullet Punch. Where is it? Going for a Bullet Punch on a Fortress coming in, and your Choice Bandit. That's going to lose you a lot of momentum because they can come in with Fortress, they can Volt Switch, they can Stealth Rock, they can Rapid Spin. Now the ball's in their court, and you're kind of having to play around them. So as long as you can predict as long as you can play around their switches, forcing switches are very good. But forcing switches, you never lose momentum. It's always after, of course, they switch that you're losing the momentum. Like I said with going for Bullet Punch, because you have to switch after that. But I hope this kind of helped. I don't know how well I went over this, but I don't know if you found it helpful. Give me a heads up if you found it helpful. If you found it really confusing, give me a heads up, and maybe I'll redo this, try to make it try to re-explain it, but it's the best I got for now.